As an automotive journalist, I've been very lucky to drive a lot of cars in my life. And I have to tell you, this Porsche 996, and that's the model, it's actually a Porsche 911, is one of my favorites. And that's why it's going to be so hard to say goodbye to this car. But we've had it now for almost a year. We've done a bunch of videos, and we keep these cars only to use them as stars in our videos, and it's time for this one to go away. But before it does, and this is going to break my heart, but coming up right now in the Fast Lane car, here are the top 5 reasons why you should go and buy a Porsche 996. This 996 is Porsche's very first water-cooled 911. If you want a 911, you of course have a lot of choices, including classic 911s, which by the way, Porsche considers this to be a classic because it's 3 generations old now. The ones that came before this, the air-cooled ones, they're through the roof. You're not going to touch a Porsche that's air-cooled for under, in any kind of good shape, maybe $30,000, $40,000 right now. And of course, the 997 that came after this is very expensive. You're looking probably at a $40,000 to $50,000 car. So this 996 is the most affordable 911s. They start at about $17,000, depending on which model you get, can go all the way up to about $30,000. This one, it's probably a $20,000 car. And why is that? Well, I've got the answer right here. It's this. It's the IMS bearing. This is a little bearing that sits right in front of the transmission. And if it goes, which it has been known to do in the 996, your entire engine will basically eat itself. So if this IMS bearing has not been replaced, and sometimes you don't know if it has been replaced, the car doesn't have a lot of value because the engine can potentially detonate. Of course, in ours, we've replaced the IMS bearing, so we know that the engine is good and healthy. There it is, meet the heart of the beast. It's a 3.4 liter flat 6 Boxster engine that's placed perfectly over the rear wheels. Now, why is that good? Well, if you want to take off fast, all the weight's on the back wheels, it just squats down and takes off. If you want to drive it in the snow, once again, all the weight's on the rear wheels. And unlike the air-cooled model, this one actually has modern traction control and stability control, which means that going around a turn, you're not going to have those crazy snap oversteer issues that you might with the old 930 turbos. Number 4 reason why you should buy a Porsche 996 today is because of reliability. Porsches are extremely reliable. They're over-engineered and they're built to last. This car has 97,000 miles on it, and yet when you drive it, it feels as tight as a brand new car. In many satisfaction and reliability indexes, Porsche always ranks at the top. And that's because Porsche engineers sweat the details. This car is built to last, perhaps the way that the old Mercedes used to be built to last, and now we're getting back to that point. The reason for that is because the engineering is just solid. Everything in this car is thought out. It has a place, it has a reason for being in it. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to close the door and you watch and listen. Wow, is that a 20-year-old car? It's brand new, it's tight as a drum. The number 3 reason you should buy a Porsche 996 is modern speed. And what I mean by that is that this car is seriously fast. For about $20,000, you can buy a car that will blow the doors off many modern sports cars. Let me just give you some numbers. 0 to 60 in about 4.9 seconds. A top speed of 178 miles an hour. Plus, Porsche is one of the only, or maybe the only car that you can actually take to the track on the weekend, race it. And what I mean by that is you can do lap after lap after lap without the brakes fading, without the engine overheating, without the tires destructing, and then drive it back home to work on Monday. It's a phenomenally engineered car, and it's seriously fast, and it's seriously fun.
I've raced 911s And to me, a 911 comes off a corner as well as a four-wheel drive car.
Really?
They really do.
So it's got that much, you get all
They
that
have
weight.
so much. They come off corners. I've raced against them. I was in the Volvo factory all-wheel drive car in Pirelli World Challenge GT.
Yeah.
And I remember just marveling at how the 911s come off corners in street circuits as well as a four-wheel drive car can come off a corner. They're really, really good at that. So that little point and squirt that we have here, it's awesome.
Before we get to number 2, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the fact that Porsches are expensive to maintain. When we bought this car, it only came with one key, so I had to go to the Porsche dealership and buy another key. Now, you'd think you can get these keys online, and you think you can get them programmed at your local Porsche shop, but you can't. You have to go to a Porsche dealer because they're the only ones that have the computer that allows you to program this key. So when it's all said and done, a spare key for this 911 costs well over $500. That's a lot of money for a key.
Yeah, it turns in better than the Boxster. It's just got more grip in the front. And it's a little torqueier. And the rear end tip from the 911, rear end kind of swinging out there. That's good fun. Very controllable though.
All right, let me get to number 2, and that is livability. This is one of the most livable, one of the most usable cars, sports cars that you can buy. And long before Tesla coined the word frunk, Porsche had a frunk, and it had a big frunk. In fact, this frunk is so big that you can easily put a large backpack, a large suitcase with no problem whatsoever into it. Also on the inside, there's plenty of room for big guys like me. I'm 6'2", and I've got plenty of headroom. Let me just show you how usable this is. Tons of room for 2 people, tons of headroom, tons of hip room, all kinds of space. But if you have kiddos, look at that. You've got 2 seats for kiddos in the back. And if you don't have kiddos, but you like to play golf, you've got a really nice usable parcel shelf back there, which you can hold golf clubs or perhaps an inflatable paddleboard. And the number one reason to buy a Porsche 996 today is because it's the perfect balance of performance, handling, and daily usability. Now behind me, there are 2 cars, of course. There's the 707 horsepower Hellcat, which will try to drive you into a tree in Hellcat mode every chance that it gets. And of course, there's a 300 horsepower 996. Now out of those 2, which do you think I like more? You'd think it'd be the Hellcat, but if I'm being honest, it really is the Porsche, even though it's 20 years old, because it's a perfect balance of everything that you'd want out of a sports car. You can live with it, you can take your family in it, sort of, kind of, and best of all, and this is probably the number one reason that I love that car so much, and that is you can use it as a daily driver on a regular basis. Look, when you get into a Hellcat, you may be perceived as being a bit of a you-know-what, especially a new one. But a Porsche 996, especially an old one, you're just an everyday who's lucky enough to have bought one of the best handling, one of the best steering, one of the most engaging, and one of the most fun cars to drive. So yes, it's going to break my heart now that we're going to be selling the 996. But we've got a lot of other projects coming up, and hopefully at some point there'll be another 996 in my life. As always, this is Roman reporting for the Fast Lane Car. Thanks for watching. Remember, check out tflcar.com for more news, views, and I fear no more Project Porsche reviews, but a lot of other interesting things. See you next time. Ciao.